This is CBC Here and Now.
Effective Tuesday, May 24th, so that's Tuesday after the long weekend, masks for K-12 students will be a personal choice for staff, students, and families.
I don't want to stop anybody else from going to school, but I would just like an online learning option.
Schools in the province will soon drop the mask mandate, but not all parents are on board.
People who are attached to their parishes and who are still attached to their churches will be going through a period of anxiety. There's no doubt about that.
Keeping offers at bay, 3 institutions are teaming up to save the Basilica. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first, the 166 Ukrainian refugees who landed in St. John's Monday are settling in and receiving lots of support, job offers, housing, and generous donations. Chris O'Neill Yates has the story of one woman who opened her home to help another.
And I'm so much impressed by people and attitude here.
Complete with welcoming touches, Marjorie Williams has provided Irina Khmelevska with a home in St. John's for a month. After connecting with her on this website, she offered Khmelevska an apartment.
And I thought to myself, what a great opportunity to help.
Both Newfoundland people and Newfoundland province appeared to be at the first step we made out of the plane a home. And Marjorie's house, a home for me, really.
In Ukraine, Khmelevska has worked as a manager in the energy and aviation sectors. She's hoping to find work here. Many of the Ukrainians who came to Newfoundland in recent months already have.
I'm following absolutely all and every lead I have, and I hope I will find something.
Khmelevska's parents are still there, in the city of Zaporizhia, in Ukraine's embattled southeast. They encouraged her to seize this opportunity and get out while she could.
The most painful in this is that I left my family behind, and I'm the only child, so my parents are everything for me.
It's a difficult transition. Williams is trying to help, showing Khmelevska around some iconic local sites.
From the first messages we exchanged, I understood that the person is extremely kind-hearted, extremely sincere.
After the month is up, Williams says they will play things by ear, but she has high hopes for Khmelevska's future.
And after that, I know she's going to have a job. So when she has a job, she'll just be a regular Newfoundlander.
Khmelevska paints and hopes to find community in the local arts scene. She managed to tuck a couple of small oil paintings into her suitcase.
My beautiful painting that Irina brought all the way from Ukraine for me.
A gift that symbolizes her home in Ukraine as she begins life again in a new country. Chris O'Neill Yates, CBC News, St. John's.
Turning now to some major news regarding masks. After the May 24th weekend, students and staff won't have to wear masks in schools. The Chief Medical Officer of Health says that's because COVID numbers have improved. But some parents say without masks, they're keeping their children home. Peter Cowan explains.
The number of people in hospital with COVID is down to single digits. Fewer people are testing positive on a PCR test, and there are fewer deaths. All good signs that COVID is lower, and part of the reason the Chief Medical Officer of Health says masks are going from mandatory to recommended in schools.
So I think we have to remember that we're dealing with relatively highly vaccinated population. We also have a level of immunity that comes from exposure to COVID-19. So there is, the risk is lower, and certainly what we're seeing with regard to circulating virus right now indicates that the amount of virus circulating is reduced.
Masks have been optional in stores and other public places for 2 months now. Dr. Janice Fitzgerald says people have kept wearing them even though they're optional, and she expects the same in schools. But some parents aren't happy with the move. Kelly Budgell is already homeschooling one of her kids. Now that everyone in her son's grade 11 class won't have to wear a mask, she wants to keep him home too.
I can't feel right as a parent knowing that I'm sending my child into a place in a pandemic where no one is going to do anything to protect the children or their family members.
The chief medical officer of health says it's important for kids to be in school and parents need to weigh the risks and the benefits.
Getting COVID for most children who are vaccinated especially, the risk of severe disease is low. And for what we're seeing with a lot of these children is that the disease is actually quite mild. And so you have to think the risk of that versus not having your child in school.
Fitzgerald says whatever decision people make, she's asking them to be kind. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
And we have a COVID update for you. No one has died of COVID since Wednesday's update, though we did see a spike in deaths this week. Since Monday, 7 people have died. Public Health says there are now 8 people in hospital, 1 in critical care.
Well, temperatures a little cooler than what we saw yesterday across the board, particularly in St. John's. 12 degrees this afternoon. Sunshine felt nice though, but those temperatures across the board, 16 degrees in Terra Nova, 16 in Badger as well. Cooler along the coast, even in St. Anthony, about 8 degrees. Then those temperatures for the rest of Labrador are sitting in the teens this afternoon. That ridge of high pressure is to the south. We are seeing a bit more cloud cover move in, especially for northern, or rather western portions of Labrador as well as southwestern Newfoundland. And this front, stationary front, is going to move through tonight. That's going to bring some showers for you, particularly in the southwest, and they'll work their way further east as we head through the night. Taking a look at the temperatures, definitely started cool. -1 today in St. John's. Those winds generally out of the west or northwest, about 12 degrees, like I said, but that temperature is falling. And we're going to see these mild temperatures continue for some areas as we get through Saturday. Colder, though, along the coast. And we're going to keep up with these warm temperatures through Monday. It looks like I'll get into the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the RNC says 2 masked men shot at a vehicle in Galway this morning. According to police, the suspects got out of a gold-colored sedan and proceeded to, quote, open fire on a parked car around 10:45. Then they apparently got back into their car and sped off down the highway. Police say this was likely not a random shooting. Nobody was hurt. Officers found 1 bullet hole in the vehicle. The RNC is asking anyone with information to please get in touch. Well, it's an 8-month conditional sentence for a former volunteer with the Minor Hockey Association in Corner Brook. 48-year-old Melissa Williams faced 6 charges for stealing from the organization. She ended up pleading guilty to 2 of the charges: theft over $5,000 and unlawful use of a credit card. Now, with this deal, she acknowledged taking just over $12,000 from the association. She has repaid about 1/3 of that, according to an agreed statement of facts, and has to pay back the rest within 3 years. However, according to the Crown, the Hockey Association is missing roughly $150,000 in total.
Lessons, I guess, would be to make sure that there's processes in place, whether it be watching cash, watching financials. One of the big things we did is handling money is now done as a committee as opposed to one person. So there's multiple people that watch the finances all the time.
A new Catholic coalition is hoping to stave off commercial developers and protect the crown jewel of the Catholic Church in this province. The Archdiocese of St. John's has placed more than 24 properties for sale through a public tender process, including the Basilica. With 177 years of history hanging in the balance, 3 groups are stepping up. The CBC's Ryan Cook reports.
The Basilica spires are visible across the city, towering symbols of the reach of the Catholic Church in St. John's. These spires and the cathedral beneath them are now up for sale, and there's a coalition hoping to keep other interested buyers at bay. You see, it's not just the Basilica that's on the auction block, it's also the adjoining properties, and that includes St. Bonaventure's College and the St. Bon's Forum, historic institutions in their own right. Now, the operating groups behind all 3 institutions have come together in a last-ditch effort to save their own skin. The groups say it's an essential move to, quote, maintain and protect a vital piece of our history, our culture, and our city. They also recognize it's an important component of the compensation plan for the abuse victims of the former Mount Cashel orphanage. The orphanage, of course, was the site of horrific abuse from the 1940s until at least the 1960s. The church was found liable for that abuse in 2021 and will have to fork over millions to survivors and their families. Former St. John's Mayor Dennis O'Keefe, a devout Catholic himself, hopes this bid can also be a bridge to a new chapter for the church, one where old wounds can finally begin to heal.
What the Archdiocese is trying to do is to raise enough funding in order to pay compensation for those who suffered at Mount Cashel primarily, and this is one way to do that and at the same time build the Catholic faith here in the city of St. John's.
Now, the question on everyone's mind is, what will it cost? This is a huge block of downtown St. John's real estate, but it's also a protected Canadian National Historic Site. It would be very hard to change anything here. That said, Dennis O'Keefe doesn't think the coalition is going to risk a low-ball offer.
I could only guess, and that would just be a wild guess, but I would think, looking at the church, St. Barn's College, and the Forum, you would be looking at a fair amount of money. No doubt about it, yeah.
Nobody from the coalition was available for comment today, and questions remain about whether the money could come from cash reserves, corporate donations, or the pockets of parishioners and St. Bon's alumni. All that and more remains to be seen before the June 2nd deadline. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
The City of St. John's wants the province to appeal to Ottawa for funding. It says the cost of diesel is cutting into Metrobus's bottom line. The city expects to take a $1.4 million hit this year due to the rising cost of fuel. Without support, the city says it will have to look at increasing bus fares and make significant service cuts. In February, Ottawa announced $750 million in emergency support for transit problems caused by COVID. The city says Metrobus ridership has returned to pre-pandemic levels, and it hopes ridership will grow thanks to the recent extension of the Income Assistance Bus Pass program. Meanwhile, more affordable housing is being built in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Provincial and federal governments announced the nearly $790,000 project today. The two-story building will be constructed here on Mesher Street. It will have 4 apartments total, each one with a bedroom, or each with 1 bedroom rather. The housing issue in Happy Valley Goose Bay was highlighted this winter after 2 individuals died outdoors near buildings used to house homeless people. At today's announcement, the province said there's talk of more supports for the region.
There's a needs assessment ongoing, spearheaded by the Labrador Friendship Centre, and we will be looking at a mini gathering place model for this region, which is my understanding is what the action team have concluded will be the best answer to meet the needs of some of the vulnerable populations in this area.
Well, Jim Lyall, the first elected president of Nunatsiavut, has died. He passed away just hours after his wife, Jean. Lyall was born in Newtok in 1945. According to a statement from the Nunatsiavut government, he lived through forced resettlement and residential school. Current Nunatsiavut President Johannes Lamp called Lyall a strong leader committed to creating positive change. Lyall held a number of positions throughout his lifetime, from postmaster to president. He served as mayor of Nain and justice of the peace, ran a restaurant and takeout, led the Labrador Inuit Association, and was appointed to different transportation boards.
By virtue of the authority entrusted to me under the Act of Incorporation of Queen's College, I, the Chancellor, will now admit her to the degree of Doctor of Criminal Law, Honors Class.
Well, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald is already a doctor, but last night she was given an honorary doctorate. Queen's College Faculty of Theology awarded her with an honorary doctorate, Doctor of Canon Law, in recognition of the work she's done throughout the pandemic, calling her a beacon of hope to people in the midst of crisis. Congratulations, Dr. Fitzgerald. Well, Prince Charles and Camilla are set to touch down in St. John's on Tuesday as part of a 3-day trip to Canada. They have stops planned at Government House and Kitty Vitty Brewery. So we hit the streets of St. John's to ask people what they think of the upcoming royal visit.
The English royal monarchy in itself, I think, is kind of falling apart in its, like, as an institution, being, like, you know, all powerful and all that stuff. Well, not all powerful. I don't know. See, I'm Indian, and for us, like, the British royalty has always been, you know, the British Raj. They were there, they did all their things. So it's always been a bit of, like, I never really loved them. So I'm saying this on TV because, like, in a way, I'm still under their authority, so I can't really
Not very political or no, just don't really look at that kind of stuff.
I'm personally not a huge fan of the royal family. I mean, they take a lot of money from the British public, and especially lately I know there's been some controversy over, you know, there's big shows of extravagance, but there's a lot of people that are really struggling right now, so.
I think that whether we like it or not, the royal family and the British are part of our history, and we're going to be seeing a change soon. Queen Elizabeth is going to pass away, and Prince Charles is something we'll have to get used to. So there are a lot of people who love the monarchy. We're not staunch monarchists, but if they want to come and people are happy about it, that's fine. But it's a modern world now, and we'll see what happens.
I think that the monarchy is very important to the image of England, and they still have our crown lands.
I don't think Newfoundlanders identify with British royalty very much anymore.
They're not, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all, right?
Well, it looks beautiful out there. It's a bit chilly tonight. We do have some cooler air on the way, I should say. We'll take a look at the weekend forecast when I come back.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Absolute final deadline is midnight, Friday, June 3rd. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Time for a look at the weather, and we've been seeing lots of great photos of icebergs lately, but we're also getting into whale watching season, and you have some great video that was sent to you.
I do. Take a look at this video that was shared with me on Twitter today. Alicia Reed, well, her husband captured this. It's a little pot, well, not a little, that's a pretty big pot of porpoises. Just playing around.
Yeah.
Enjoying the nice weather that we've been seeing.
That's fantastic, jumping around.
Yep, I love that. I love how playful they are for sure. But yeah, it was a nice day to see that. Certainly a little cool though this morning. Lots of sunshine, but temperatures, taking a look at those, about -1 in St. John's and 2 degrees in Bonavista. So we're definitely seeing some of that cooler air overnight last night, even up across Labrador. -5 in Lab City this morning. Those temperatures rebounded absolutely beautifully for most areas. 15 degrees in Lab City today. Same thing for Happy Valley Goose Bay. And then temperatures across the island were in the teens for the most part, except for the northern peninsula, where you sat around 8 degrees today in St. Anthony. And taking a look at what's going on, we do have a ridge of high pressure that's been in place. It's sinking south now. We've got the next system that's going to move in. Well, the front will move in as we head through the night tonight. Already seeing lots of cloud cover, some showers being reported for southwestern areas of the island as well. And we can expect that to continue. But with those cooler temperatures towards the coast, we're certainly seeing that already, down to 4 degrees in Twillingate, 7 in St. John's. Still a beautiful evening though for Deer Lake, sitting around 16 degrees. And eventually these temperatures up across Labrador, particularly Lab West, will dip tonight again around the 0 degree mark. You may see a few showers first before that happens, but overall it will be an unsettled night. We are talking about the potential for some flurries for Nain, where your temperature will sit around -3 overnight. And then across the island, those temperatures will be a bit warmer than what we saw yesterday, hovering between 3 to 7 degrees, generally light winds. However, you'll see a little bit of a breeze on the west coast out of the southwest, or southeast rather, around 20 kilometers per hour. Now, things will be unsettled as we head through the night tonight. That front will move through. It'll bring some showers right along with it, and it will continue. We may even see some heavy at times as we get into the overnight period, but overall, it will be unsettled. Don't be surprised to see some flurries also tomorrow morning across coastal areas of Labrador, even southeastern Labrador. We may see that as well. But overall, the showers should end by the time we get into the afternoon, and then we should actually see some clearing skies through the day. And it'll turn out to be a fairly nice Saturday through the afternoon. But again, as we get through the overnight, those temperatures are going to drop. That system will move through, or at least the system will move through, and we could see, don't be surprised to see some flurries through central, really anywhere along the northeast coast, either some flurries or some graupel in the morning hours on Sunday. So how much rain are we talking? Generally a trace to 5 millimeters is possible by the time we get into Saturday morning. And or rather Sunday morning. We could see some pockets of higher, maybe 10 to 20 millimeters, and then in the higher elevations we may even see between 20 to 30 millimeters if we do see some of that heavy rain. Temperatures tomorrow will generally be in the single digits across the island. We're looking at onshore winds. Easterlies 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, so those areas along the coast may actually see those temperatures a bit cooler than that, closer to the mid-single digits. Clarenville, Marystown, you should hover around 11 degrees tomorrow, significantly warmer as you head towards central. But again, you're looking at that chance of showers through the first half of the morning, and then we should see some sunshine. Twillingate, you'll hover around 10 degrees for a good chunk of the day, and Harbour Breton around 12. Now, as we head towards the west coast, the winds out of the northeast about 20 kilometers per hour, between 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. It's not a whole lot, but things will stay unsettled for you through most of the morning, and then eventually you'll see some clearing skies as well. 12 degrees in Burgeo. Humber Valley should sit around 13. And then for the northern peninsula, temperatures a bit cooler, single digits through the day, but you should see a mix of sun and cloud. You'll see your showers later on in the day. And then again, showers or flurries for southeastern Labrador. Temperatures are going to be nice once you get into the afternoon. 10 degrees for Mary's Harbour, but it may start a bit cooler. And then we'll hang on to the double digits for a little while longer through Lab City, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and then stay into the single digits as you head towards the coast. We do have some cooler air moving back in when it gets here. We'll be back down to the single digits, but I'll get into those details when I come back.
Well, 2 years ago, in the midst of a pandemic, a pair of newlyweds uprooted their life, moving from Iran to settle in St. John's. And in that short time, they've launched a new business, which brings a taste of their home here to Newfoundland and Labrador. It's called Rug on the Rock. Have a look.
I'm Hanif Hosseini, and her name is Alaha Waziri. We are both from Iran. We got married 2 years ago and left our home country just 3 days after our wedding. Then we moved to St. John's to start a new life here. When we arrived here, we tried to find a rug that we used to have in Iran. We couldn't find anything, so we stopped and said, let's buy a rug when we come back to Iran or Turkey. Last December, we traveled to Turkey and Iran to visit our family, and we brought some with ourselves and advertised them, and sold all of them in less than a week. So then we figured out that
can be a business.
That can be a business.
The thing that affects the value and the quality of a rug is the number of its knots. For example, this one is a very high quality rug. It's a pure silk Persian rug, and the number of knots per square inches is over 500. Other rugs, for example, this one has less knots, but this one is has a good quality. This one is woven by the wool on a cotton, and the number of knots is around 150 to 200 per square inches.
We have some plans to expand our audience and our products, but we believe it's too soon for us. We have many customers, and the demand is so high here, so we just have to focus on our rug collections and customers here in Newfoundland.
Welcome back. Earlier in the show, we introduced you to one of the 166 Ukrainians who touched down in St. John's Monday. In the weeks leading up to their arrival, we've heard many stories of generosity from people in the community who are fundraising, gathering clothing, furniture, and other supplies. A local salon wants to do its part by giving Ukrainian newcomers a sense of normality. Trish Malloy owns the Headroom. She spoke with our Chris O'Neill Yates.
Having your hair done is probably one of the most natural things you can do, and gives you comfort and a feeling of warmth and happiness, and brings you a little bit of joy. What we'd like to do with the Ukrainian immigrants that have come here, and they are our Ukrainians, is to invite them here to the salon next Monday and Sunday. That's the 22nd and the 23rd of May. We're going to hire some buses to pick them up and bring them here and have hair services done over those 2 days. I know there are a lot of them and they're in different places, so I want to put an invitation out there to all of them. We're willing to pick them up and bring them here. We're going to do their hair, we're going to provide lunch, and we're going to have some bouncy castles and different things for the kids and have everything set up here for them, just to have a day and have some normality in their lives.
Why did you think it was important to do this?
These people, like watching the news and seeing what they've gone through, giving them the opportunity to have some normality, something that feels like real to them, and something that's just so easy to do and provide and make them happy and comfortable here. You know, thinking of it, like if somebody came to you tomorrow and said you can take one suitcase, go to a foreign country, never to return again to your home, most likely they won't, and maybe their houses aren't there when they go back. Come From Away was, although we were amazing and inviting, these people still had the opportunity to leave here a couple of days later and go back to their homes. Their home is still there, their family's still there. These people will probably never be able to have that opportunity. So for us to be able to reach out, and even St. John's as a community, anybody who wants to drop anything off those days, like bikes for the kids, like they came with one suitcase. So any bikes, toys, anything anybody wants to drop off here that will be useful to them, we're going to put it up on our Instagram and our Facebook on both salons. Our Paradise location is doing this, coinciding with us. So we're going to make sure that everybody that wants to get done will be done, and we'll take care of their services. And I'd also like to reach out, because both of our salons don't have massage therapists. In our spa here and out there, we do have rooms. So, and we do have beds, so people are more than welcome. Anybody, massage therapists or nail technicians, want to call here. Because there is going to be a mass, we won't be able to cover all that aspect of it. But the hair end of it, we'll definitely be able to do. And if there's some stylists out there want to volunteer and come in and cut, they're more than welcome to come to both of our locations. Anybody just call, massage therapists, nail technicians. We want to give these people a day to just relax and get away from the horror that has been their lives for the past number of months.
And it's men and women?
Men, women, children. Yes, they're all here, and we want to take care of them and welcome them, and that make them know that they're a part of our community, and they're now Canadians if they want to be. And we're here to take care of them and reach out to them and make sure that they feel welcome and secure.
Well, staying with Ukraine, a captured Russian soldier is on trial in Kyiv for the killing of an unarmed Ukrainian civilian just days into the Russian invasion. It's the first war crime case that also carries symbolic importance for the embattled country. The 21-year-old is charged with fatally shooting a 62-year-old man riding a bicycle in a village near the capital on February 28th. Ukraine has alleged Russian forces violated international law by torturing and killing civilians during the invasion. So far, it says it identified more than 10,000 war crimes involving hundreds of Russian soldiers and government officials. Moscow has denied targeting civilians and is reportedly planning similar trials against Ukrainian soldiers. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces say they've been steadily forcing enemy soldiers to retreat from parts of the Kharkiv region, but that hasn't stopped Russia from targeting the area. Briar Stewart reports from near a building that had served as a humanitarian center before it was destroyed in an overnight strike.
I'm in the city of Derhatchy. This is about 40 kilometers from Russia's border and about 10 kilometers from the front line. And right behind me, this was a cultural center that was hit by a missile and a rocket twice in the last 24 hours. And during the war, it had been used as a place to store humanitarian aid. So after this happened, first thing this morning, not only did you have the fire department show up, but you had volunteers that were picking through the rubble, trying to salvage things like diapers and formula. And this is an area where there had been good news in recent days because Ukraine had managed to push back some of the Russian troops further away from Kharkiv. And instead what's happening now is you see Russia's military having a really kind of concentrated push around the Donetsk and the Luhansk area. But even in an area where, you know, it's been kind of relatively quiet for the last couple of weeks, you can still have something like this happen right in the middle of the city and just be absolutely devastating for the community. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Derhatchy.
Well, here at the Lantern tomorrow, there's an event that I love emceeing, and it's one of my first public functions as the new host of On the Go, and it's the Terra Nova Grannies Scrabble Tournament. And joining me now are two people that I know quite well. Kay Matthews, nice to see you, Kay.
Hello, Anthony.
Yeah. And Jennifer Whitfield, nice to see you again.
Yes, definitely.
Now, before we actually talk about the Scrabble tournament, the pandemic, I mean, the Terra Nova Grannies, you guys do a lot of, you're shaking your head.
The pandemic's caused such havoc for us.
Really?
Yes.
So
we haven't been able to do any fundraising.
I guess for people who don't know what the Terra Nova Grannies do, Kay, you're one of the founding members, even though she didn't want me to say that. What do the Terra Nova Grannies do?
We raise funds to support the grandmothers in Africa who have had to take over the care of their grandchildren because the parents died from AIDS. But what they're finding now is that the AIDS epidemic is actually spreading among women and among children, whereas, you know, originally it had been in men. So it's a real community-wide problem. And the Stephen Lewis Foundation has actually got a really good program which is based on the grassroots. So they go out to the communities themselves in Africa and they work with community organizations, supporting and funding them, giving them other resources so that they can strengthen their communities and fight against the AIDS epidemic.
Having done other interviews with the Stephen Lewis Foundation, one of the positive comments people make about that foundation is that the money, it's small parcels of money, but it's very, very well targeted to people who are most affected, right?
Yes, that's right. A grandmother might need a new room built onto her hut, and she gets in touch with the person who's involved with the Stephen Lewis Foundation, and then funding comes to her, and the community could well be her sons and the sons of the community and the daughters build that extra room on for the children, the grandchildren that she's now looking after.
So it's really grandmothers here helping grandmothers in Africa, right?
That's the whole point of it, yes.
Now, you mentioned the pandemic has been disruptive. So I know you do the Scrabble tournaments, you do some walks, you do some other things. What has the effect been? I mean, Jennifer mentioned effect on the fundraising. Give me a sense of what has happened over the last 2 years.
Well, you know, because of lockdowns and everything, we've either had to do things virtually, which is not nearly as effective as when we can get people together. And I should just mention there are about 230 grandmothers groups across Canada and in some other countries in the world all working for this. And all of us have found it a real challenge to, you know, able to access funds to support. And really this is our first big attempt of this year. And we're just hoping that, you know, people will come out and support us and we can send some money.
I'll ask you a last question. How are you feeling about the fact that we're back here on the weekend able to do this again after, I know you did manage one other one, but you've missed a few. How does it feel to know it's back?
Well, I'm excited. I can't wait. Yes, I think it'll be great. Well, I have to say it's thanks to the Lantern because they're always very good to us and we've talked to them about safety and how we might set up the room, etc. So really, and there will be there will be cookies. There will be the usual good afternoon tea. Yeah.
That's true. The food is great. Well, listen, I'm so glad that this is happening once again. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Yeah. And I promise if you want to come to this, there will be a CBC swag bag. I still have here and now stuff, and now I've got on the go stuff. So if you want to win a CBC prize pack, and also this is open to all levels, right? So that's the important thing. It's not
friendly, fun afternoon.
Mostly.
Oh yes, now you're going to have competition because I understand Lorraine is looking for a table with you.
Oh, Lorraine, that former MHA, whatever her name.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's great to see you again, and I can't wait. And thanks for your time, and I hope we get a good turnout.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you very much for having us.
Yes, a Scrabble nemesis, Lorraine Michael. Sounds like it's going to be fun. As Anthony mentioned, the Terra Nova Grannies are hosting their Spring Tea and Scrabble fundraiser tomorrow from 2 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. at the Lantern on Barnes Road in St. John's. Masks will be required when not seated. Admission is $20, and as you heard, Anthony Germain is delighted to be the host of the event. paintings by Nova Scotia artist Maud Lewis, who died in 1970, sold for record-breaking amounts in 2021. Experts and art lovers are trying to figure out what's driving up those prices and if she'll soon pass $100,000 for a single painting. The CBC's John Tatry has this story.
Well, the price has gone up some. I used to charge $4.50 for them, but I've gone up 50 cents, $5. You know, the brushes and paint cost a lot, you see. Boards and oil colors, they all mount up. So I went up in the price, $5. Some don't want to pay that much, and others don't mind at all.
But if someone insisted she take $10, would she take it?
Oh, yes.
Maud Lewis was a commercial hit from the start. By the time this 1965 CBC interview aired, she'd created and sold thousands of her own artwork. And people are buying and selling them still, but not for $10. So what's changed? Why are people looking differently at Maud's work 5 decades after she died?
The pandemic turned Chad Brown into a full-time Maud Lewis art dealer.
I think we're going to see more paintings. I think we're going to see better paintings. I think the more paintings we get, it could soften the prices a little bit, but it depends on the image. I have no doubt that we will see paintings reach $100,000. It's not if, it's when.
And Maud Lewis had a great pandemic. 2021 was her best year on record. Paintings expected to fetch $10,000 to $20,000 sold for $50,000 and $60,000. Bill Mayberry has been selling Maud Lewis paintings in Toronto and Winnipeg since the 1980s.
To see something go from $4 to, like, the record now for a Maud Lewis auction is $67,000. There's really not, at least in my experience, anyone in Canadian art where there's been that vast change.
When he started selling Mauds, he says people laughed at him and the paintings. They're not laughing now. A life-size replica of her home is part of an exhibit in London's Whitechapel Gallery, next to Pablo Picasso and Francis Bacon.
To me, this is the beginning of Maud's story. Like, there's a much bigger art world out there that still has to discover Maud Lewis or even consider ever finding a piece to add to their collection. I probably won't live to see her work go international, but I think she's certainly got the potential of the work being shown with other great folk art artists that are international, especially in the United States.
And with those rising prices comes a rising interest in her art itself. Lewis herself famously said she'd never been to an art gallery, but look closely at her house. She was surrounded by pop artists working in calendars, advertising, and magazines. A new book takes a look at those influences.
It's not only just drawing inspiration from the landscape, but also drawing inspiration from pop culture and then distilling that in her own unique language and in a way that I think is really exciting and that we should talk about more.
Laurie Dalton has been studying Lewis for decades as a modern artist, influenced by ads, attracted to serialization.
To me, challenges and betrays some of the narration around her that she was unskilled, that she was untrained, that she didn't travel anywhere. But it forgets that she's surrounded by all of this pop culture material. And if we compare about the ways we've talked about modern artists, particularly male modern artists in art history, that's often celebrated, that they're taking a recognizable location and reinvigorating that through a visual lens. And so I think that Maud Lewis was doing that as well.
More and more people are joining Maud Lewis in her sustained effort to create and hold a space for beauty in an often ugly world. It's impossible to know what she would have made of her posthumous success, but we'll leave her the last word.
Contented here. Ain't much for travel anyway. Contented right here in this chair. Now that I've got a brush in front of me, I'm all right.
Well, it's time to find out who's celebrating. Anniversary wishes going out to Bruce and Gail Purchase of Lawrencetown. It's their 50th wedding anniversary today. Congratulations to Everett and Cavell Mercer of Bay Roberts. They're celebrating 61 years of marriage. Happy anniversary to Harvey and Geneva Wiseman in Clarenville. They've been married for 55 years. Happy 55th wedding anniversary also to Dave and Goldie Granville of Kettle Cove, Twillingate. Happy anniversary to Frank and Ada Dean of North Harbour, Placentia Bay, who are celebrating 60 years together. Happy 59th anniversary to Scott and Jesse Thomas from Middle Arm. Congratulations to Alf and Eva Jones of Clarenville, who are celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary. Wishing Alex and Evelyn Lovelace from Grand Bank a happy 50th wedding anniversary. Anniversary greetings going out to Don and Lydia Waterman of Gambo. They're celebrating 68 years of marriage. Happy 51st anniversary to Bob and Judy Mercer of Pasadena. Anniversary greetings going out to Walt and Debbie Isaacs of Winterland on their 53rd anniversary. Now to some birthdays. Wishing Ella King a happy 99th birthday. She's from Port aux Basques and now lives in Paradise. Happy 90th birthday to Mary McCarthy from Upper Island Cove. Best wishes to Margaret King, who is celebrating her 90th birthday. Birthday greetings going out to Grace Hollett from Badger. She just turned 92. Florence Morgan is also turning 92. That's tomorrow. She's from Seal Cove and now lives in Holyrood. And happy 94th birthday tomorrow to Woodrow Snow, who's living in Springdale. Hope you have a fabulous day. Time for a look at the long-range forecast, and stargazers, Ashley, are going to be treated to something special on Sunday night. There's a lunar eclipse happening, and we'll be able to see it, maybe?
It looks like we will, yes, but we don't often see lunar eclipses, and if, in fact, a total lunar eclipse. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. So you'll start to see the shadow around 11 o'clock on Sunday night, and then the partial eclipse will start around midnight, and then by the time we get to about 12, almost 1 o'clock, I should say, the moon will turn blood red, hence normally called a blood moon, and that will happen for about 2.5 hours, and then that eclipse will end by the time we get into about 4 o'clock in the morning. Now this is St. John's times, and obviously your area should be pretty similar to this within a half an hour, but the viewing conditions are going to be fairly nice. In fact, we don't normally get to see this. This will be a treat. It does look like most of the coastal areas of Labrador, as well as a good chunk of the island, should see the eclipse, most of the eclipse anyway. It does look like we may see some cloud cover creep in as we get towards the end of it. But temperatures as we get into Sunday are going to be chilly, certainly in the overnight. Only single-digit highs expected for anywhere along the northeast coast. And again, you may see the chance of a few flurries in the morning for anywhere really along the northeast coast through central areas as well. The further away from that onshore flow, the warmer the temperatures. 13 degrees in Corner Brook for your Sunday. A lovely day for Lab City, except with the chance of some flurries, showers rather, at 10 degrees. And a mix of sun and cloud expected for Happy Valley, Goose Bay through the day. Areas along southern Newfoundland will see those temperatures between 11 and 12 degrees on Sunday. Now Monday, temperatures dramatically drop up across the Big Land. Still looking at that potential for a few flurries as well for Nain. Otherwise, double-digit temperatures expected across most of the island. Now we will see a return of those double-digit temperatures as we get into Wednesday for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Some sunshine before we get there, and then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at temperatures in the teens right through midweek next week. Same thing for western Newfoundland, although it will be a bit unsettled. And then as far as Labrador goes, you're looking at some showers for both Tuesday, well, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Double digits will return for you, and a bit of a roller coaster for Lab West, 7 degrees by the time we get to Wednesday. This is our weather photo of the day overlooking Bay of Islands. Joyce shared that shot with us. If you have any weather photos, send them to nophotos@cbc.ca.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much, Joyce. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so we ended last night's show with a hockey update. We'll do that again tonight. The Growlers are still alive. They beat the Reading Royals 5-1 on home ice last night.
Yes, and according to the team's social media, they had 25 Ukrainian refugees in the stands as special guests last night, and the next game is tomorrow night, 8:30 Newfoundland time. And also, another thing to note, the Juno Awards are this Sunday. Canadian actor turned Marvel superstar Jim Lyall will be the host.
It all kicks off at 9:30 p.m. Island time, a half hour earlier in most parts of Labrador.
A glamorous night of music, I'm sure.
It's nice to get back to it.
And it's Friday, so the weekend's here. Yeah, looking forward to having a couple of days, some nice weather, and the lunar eclipse on Sunday. Lots of things happening. Hope you enjoy it.
Good night.